Who's hot and who's not? Starting pitcher edition. We've got to talk about Paul Skeens. Obviously, he's been pretty hot since getting called up. 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. He had 18 whiffs on 96 pitches against the Reds. And this is now 2 starts in a row where he's mixed in his curveball a little bit more. And so far, it's looked like a pretty damn good pitch. In 7 starts, Skeens has a 2.29 ERA and a .99 whip. Sonny Gray also turned in a great start at the Marlins, 7 2/3, 2 runs allowed, had 4 strikeouts in this one, and that's back-to-back quality starts of at least 7 innings for Sonny Gray. And Cristopher Sanchez has been good for quite some time now. 7 innings, 2 runs, 1 of those earned, 5 strikeouts to 1 walk. He actually faded his changeup a bit in this start, which is weird because that's clearly his best pitch, and he still had a really good outing. I think he's very clearly traded off some strikeouts, Scott, for throwing strikes and getting ground balls. And, while we're not getting strikeouts, we're still getting pretty good ratios with really good run support behind him there with the Phillies offense. So anything you'd like to add on the pitchers who are hot? Cristopher Sanchez, Sonny Gray, and Paul Skeens.
Yeah, some weird pitch selection here for a few of these guys. Paul Skeens throwing a bunch of curveballs out of nowhere. It hasn't been any less effective than his slider. I mean, his slider's kind of been a letdown if you look at the whiff rate on it and everything. It was supposed to be his best swing and miss pitch in this splinker. You wrote sprinkler here in the notes, but they call it splinker. Is that an autocorrect?
No, it's an autocorrect. Every single time I write splinker, it autocorrects to sprinkler, and it's so annoying.
What gets me with the autocorrect is when you write a legitimate word and it changes it to something else. And it's like a fairly common, I wish I could think of an example, like were and we're. Like it'll change one to the other all the time. And I'm like, what are you doing? People use this word all the time. Anyway.
Why do we not have splinker in the dictionary yet? Come on.
Splinker, you got to get it in there for Paul Skeens. I guess the one I want to focus on most here is Cristopher Sanchez, because he was coming off a bad start, and it was the start. It happened to be the start where his velocity dropped back down again. So remember, there was a spike in velocity at the start of the year, and he struggled with control. Then there was another spike in velocity, and he became this control artist again, had a stretch of 4 starts where he walked 3 batters combined. And then the velocity dropped back down to the initial elevated point it was early in the season, and he had a bad start and walked, I think, 2 in 4 innings. The velocity stayed there. So again, it was the initial spike is where the velocity was in this start, but he went back to having good control and got a good result. So I don't know if he sacrificed strikeouts by throwing more sinkers than changeups, if there was kind of a trade-off there. Strikes versus strikeouts. I don't know. He's been a tough one to figure out, has Cristopher Sanchez, but I think he's worth having and using because he's good enough, often enough, with one of the best offenses in baseball backing him, that he's worthwhile. I just wish we had a better handle on who Cristopher Sanchez was.
Those 3 pitchers were the ones that were hot on Monday. The one who is not. Yusei Kikuchi has slowed down. 4 innings, 5 runs allowed, 4 homers allowed. That actually ties a career high. Still had 7 strikeouts, had 15 whiffs on 79 pitches. I believe they did this on his birthday too, which is pretty messed up, man. How are you going to crush Yusei Kikuchi on his birthday? It's not nice. But lots of hard contact in this one. I guess that's going to happen when you give up 4 home runs. And he has allowed 5 earned runs in 3 of his last 5 starts. During that span, it's a 6.17 ERA. It's a 1.59 whip. Lots of hard contact, lots of homers. Scott, are you panicking? Are you hitting the panic button on Yusei Kikuchi?
Panic is a little strong. I think he's on the fringier side. I'm not saying he needs to be dropped for Reese Olson, but I never really bought into the idea that Yusei Kikuchi was this must-start, big-time strikeout artist. I know he had a good stretch last year, I think in the second half, right, where his K/9 rate was pretty impressive. But I think he's pretty mid. He's mid, and he's showing it now.
I think he's better than mid because he does get whiffs. I just think when things
What
go
does mid
wrong,
mean?
exactly what you think it means. It's like,
Okay. Maybe
average,
not.
I guess. Mid.
Yeah.
I think there's more of a negative connotation with mid. Like if you call someone mid, that's not nice. You don't want to call somebody average, right? It's like,
I'm just going on contextual clues here. I've never looked it up.
yeah. I think Kikuchi's a little bit better than mid. I just think when things go wrong for him, they tend to go really wrong, and we're kind of seeing some of that right now. But I have him ranked closer around SP 40. He probably should be closer to like SP 60 in the rankings.
60's mid.
Yeah, I think that's.
I only care about the top 120, so 60 is.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. Like, is 60 in the good glob?
I don't know.
Our friend Ellen Adair suggested cornucopia as the alternative to good glob. Doesn't roll off the tongue. No, I see where she's coming from, but
we got someone sent in an email about what to name the good glob.
The good glob.
Where did it go? I can't find it right now. And obviously we're live. I think they said the glob should be the good glob and the blob should be the bad glob. So,
well, some people mistake glob for blob as it is. I think that would be too confusing.
Yeah.
So I reject that also. These are fine ideas. I appreciate the suggestions. Yeah. I don't want to discourage suggestions, but I am, going to reject most of them.
I might save this. I'm going to save this thought where we can maybe elaborate more on our rankings episode later this week. But I've kind of backed off a little bit outside of the top 30 or 35 starting pitchers. When I've been ranking 40 to 60 lately, I have not felt as good about it. And I can't really exactly put my finger on it, but
I'll pay closer attention tomorrow when I'm doing that. But it makes sense. Particularly if offense is going to pick up.
Right.
There's going to be a weeding out process for those pitchers. And I think we've continued to move Garrett Crochet up. He's like top 25 now, at least for me.
Yeah.
And Jack Flaherty and Luis Heel, while others have fallen off a little bit, like Cutter Crawford and Yusei Kikuchi.